It's silver colored. It came out of one of the best Cracker Jack boxes in the city. So we want to take a look at it. It's sitting right up here. Okay, lights out in the back. Oh, yeah. If you've seen your yellow sheets, the speakers are being recorded professionally. There's no personal recording. So we hope that we don't find that out, that that's going on. They're priced very reasonably. Discount if you get quite a few of them. It's all taken care of. All right, now it's time for, if you're in your chairs, you're available. Have we got two different projectors going? Oh, okay. That's that one. All right. Thought that'd be interesting. Yeah, we'll figure out something like that. All right. I'm going to ask for quiet in the room, please.
Quiet on the set.
Silence on the set. And we thank you for that, because the person next to you might have a little bit of a hearing problem or might have a little bit of problem with side talk. So please omit that until the speaker is over, and in your 10 minutes you have ample time for that. Now, Dickie will give a workshop tonight. Others, I don't know.
A workshop.
Yes, a workshop by the next speaker, for the next two. So tonight there will be sign-up sheets out on the table for the workshop you care to attend, if you care to attend them. They are optional. And there will probably be another one who is not a speaker, since we only had 3 today, and we do have 5 rooms available. Okay, tape people, are you... All we want to do is live a long and vigorous life. Main thing is vigorous and long as well. Our next speaker is also going to try to consolidate or distill gobs of years, 25, 30, or 40 years of research into this subject, into this topic, the topic of longevity, anti-aging, whatever you want to call it. We're pleased to have Dr. Stephen Cherniske with us, who is the head of a company right over here in Colorado that specializes and focuses in this area of longevity. He travels the country and the world. He heads up, as his friends say, about 14 different jobs running this company and spreading the word. And I know you'll be happy to have heard him. We're happy to have him. We want to welcome, for the first time at Global Sciences, Dr. Stephen Cherniske of Boulder, Colorado.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a biochemist, and so keep in mind that what I have is information and not medical advice. You were talking about the distillation of information, and I think I could probably do that in a couple of minutes. I gave a presentation to a group of health professionals a couple months ago, and it was a very large group, medical doctors, nurses, chiropractors, dentists, physical therapists, a very wide range of practitioners, and looked around the group, and it was about equally divided between men and women, and I'd been talking about the metabolic model of aging. And I had, I don't know, maybe 100 slides flashing up on the screen for about an hour or so. And they asked me to make a summary statement. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, a summary statement after a couple hundred slides and a lot of information, what are these people really going to be able to get? So I abandoned the idea that it would be the kind of the scientific format. And instead what I did was I asked them a very personal question. And I said, what if you were suddenly single? And there was smiles all over the room. And I said, and you were looking for not a fling, because you're old enough to have accumulated enough wisdom so that you're not really excited by that. You're looking for a life mate that can match your intellectual curiosity, that can match your energy, that can match your values. And so you're looking for this life mate. What would you prefer? A 60-year-old who looks and performs like a 30-year-old, or a 30-year-old who looks and performs like a 60-year-old? And there was people there sitting there scratching their head. But when all was said and done, when everybody sorted it out and I took a vote, the vast majority of them said, heck, I'd prefer that 60-year-old who looks and performs like a 30-year-old. And I said, congratulations, you understood the metabolic model of aging. Because the metabolic model of aging says it doesn't matter how many candles were on your last cake. The year you were born is now irrelevant. The only thing that matters is how you look, feel, and perform. Does that excite anybody here? Because if you look at your driver's license and you say, well, that's how old I am, aging will be for you a profoundly terrible experience. It'll be depressing. It will ultimately be terrifying. And why is that? Because if you look at life in its chronology, there's really no escape. There's really no changing that, because every time the Earth goes around the sun, we're all 1 year older. And unlike the movies where Superman got up and pushed the Earth back the opposite direction and time went back, remember that? Guess what? You can't do that. I've tried looking in the phone book for Superman. I've tried using the internet, and I still haven't found him. And so I'm abandoning the idea that we can actually turn back the clock. But that's the chronology. Could you turn on that first slide? Could I get some lights off? What I'm suggesting is that we abandon this view of aging. That if this is your mindset, that in fact you are born and you live 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, and then wham, slam into that brick wall at about 76.7, a point known as life expectancy. If this is your mindset, then growing old will be a terrifying experience, and there is no other way to look at it. But if instead you look at life in a different way, now let me remind you that this really isn't a line. This line should be going like this, right? Is this really a hill? The further along you go, the faster you speed towards that brick wall. Now think about this just for a second. Here you are in this vehicle, you're going down this hill, and you're going faster and faster and faster, and you're heading towards that brick wall. You got to be thinking to yourself, where's the brakes? Right? Am I right? Second question is, I bet, can somebody move that wall? And so the first thing I'm going to tell you about is a system whereby you can find the brakes, apply those brakes. I'm even going to tell you how to get that car in reverse, and ultimately I'm going to tell you how to move the wall. Is that exciting? Okay, let's look at the other slide. If you look at the metabolic model of aging, it says simply that in addition to the passage of time, that's okay. In addition to the passage of time, there is a metabolic shift that takes place in your body from a highly anabolic metabolism characterized by high energy, rebuild, restore, repair metabolism, and there is a shift to a catabolic activity which is characterized by low energy, breakdown, wear down, and tear down. Now this is inexorable. This will happen. If I look at my kids, and my 7-year-old a couple of months ago fell off his bike and fractured his femur, largest bone in the body, just snapped it right in two. We went to the doctor did the x-ray, said, I'll see you in 3 weeks. I said, why? He goes, we're going to take the cast off. And I said, wait a minute, a compound fracture of the femur, and he's going to take the cast off in 3 weeks? He goes, oh yeah. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, we looked at the x-rays and you could barely see the fracture line. That's because he's incredibly anabolic. He's 7 years old. Now, I have an 83-year-old mother. If she fell down the stairs and broke her hip, would she heal fast or slow? Probably not at all. Do you know that of all the women who will break their hip this year, 40% of them will require lifelong care? 20% of them, a little more than 20%, will not leave the hospital. Because why? They're so catabolic, they cannot repair the connective tissue, the muscle, and the bone required to fix that injury. So again, it's anabolic to catabolic. I hope you all get that. My whole career for the last 12 years has been figuring out ways to restore anabolic metabolism. And why did I do that? 12 years ago, I turned 40. And I didn't like what I saw. In fact, what I saw was, if you can go to the next slide, I saw the handwriting on the wall, which is quality of life. This curve represents the quality of life over time, represented by this axis. So quality of life rises as you're learning and growing. Then you get to puberty, and quality of life really takes a jump up, right? Yoo-hoo! But then there's the prime of life of about 15 or 20 years, okay? And then what? You have a place where maybe you're doing okay. And I was right there. I was doing okay. But I looked at this curve, and I didn't like that one. I didn't like what was coming. My percent body fat was 20%, which is average for a 40-year-old. My blood pressure was high normal. My doctor was thinking about giving me some medication for it. My cholesterol level was 214 and rising, and I could see the handwriting on the wall. And I said, I don't want to ride this kind of roller coaster. That doesn't look like fun. So I remembered, well, it's all about anabolic and catabolic. Let me see if I can figure out a way to restore anabolic metabolism. So chronologically, right now I'm 52, but biologically right now I'm in my mid-30s, which is far more comfortable for me. I have an AARP card, but I only take it out when I want to get a discount at the movies. Go to the next slide. You see, this is the possibility and the potential of the metabolic model of aging. If I don't cover everything that you need to know about this, and I can't in 1 hour, you have to know that there's a booth here that Roger and Nancy are at. It's called Oasis Wellness Network. You can pick up an information packet. If you come to my presentation tonight, I'll be signing books, and we'll be talking more about this in a nuts and bolts fashion. All I can do now in the hour is to, number one, inspire you to understand that there's a different way of looking at age, and to encourage you to take steps to restore anabolic, youthful metabolism. Because when you do that, you see your quality of life increases as you're learning and growing. You reach puberty, yahoo! But now instead of a pathetic 15 or 20 years of prime of life, you have 40 or 50 or more years of prime of life, which is really attractive, isn't it? I mean, it's attractive to me. I look at life and I say, well, what is it that I really want out of life? Is it, do I want to be sitting in a lazy boy rocker with a remote watching television? That's not what I want out of life. What I want out of life is the juice, is the intensity, is the excitement, it's the passion, it's the creativity. That's what I want out of life. And if you're on that downward spiral of degeneration and decrepitude, that's impossible. Anyone disagree? Anyone disagree that if you're dealing with chronic pain or illness, that it's really hard to tap in to the passion and the creativity and the intensity of life? Anybody disagree with that? So what you need to be thinking is, you need to be thinking of restoring, or if you're young enough, maintaining anabolic metabolism. Now, even after the prime of life, the decline in quality of life is really only minor. It's like when you're here, you really can't run as fast as when you were here, but is anybody going to complain that they, I mean, that's why when you run 10Ks and marathons, they have awards according to age groups. So it's really okay. But you have no sharp decline. You have no 3 or 4 decades of chronic pain and suffering ending in a hopelessly premature death. You blow through this point called life expectancy. It's really a curtain, not a wall. And then maybe sometime around 120 years or so, you die in a skiing accident.
Skydiving.
Or skydiving. But there's no degeneration and decrepitude, And again, this line here It's debatable. I had a professor in graduate school who said there is nothing inherent in life that requires death. And I said, gee, are you sure about that? And he said, yeah, there is nothing inherent in life that requires death. I mean, the design so far has pretty much made that pretty evident. But for those of you who are here at this conference who are looking at new possibilities, I want to at least plant a seed in your mind that this might not have to happen. Or maybe it will have to happen, but maybe it'll be out here, or out here, or out here. The point is, when the huge breakthrough comes, and it will come, where will you be? You see, I have a lot of friends who are geneticists, and when we split, we were all in graduate school together, and then I went into human nutrition and they went into genetics. And so they call me every couple of months and they say, hey Steve, got any twigs and berries you want me to eat? And I call them every couple of months and I say, hey, I got a problem. The fruit flies in my kitchen are dying. Can you help them? Because you see, that's all they've been able to do is extend the life of fruit flies and nematodes. So we have this interesting relationship where we kid each other. But the point is that they are on the threshold of some absolutely stunning things. The question is, where will you be when it happens? I can't think of anything more painful than to have some unbelievable breakthrough in genetics or cell cloning, and then I get to get on the line for my therapy and I'm told I'm too old or too feeble. Actually, I can think of something more painful. What if you're already in the grave when it happens? You see? So at the very least, you should be sitting there in your chair thinking, hey, at the very least, I got to maintain highly anabolic metabolism, because if there is no genetic fix, this is your only hope. And if there is a genetic fix, it's going to happen sometime in the future. And what body do you want to bring into that golden age? Good question. What body do you want to have when the genetic fix is made available? Do you want to have an extra 50, 60, 70, 80, or 100 years? Do you want to have an extra 50 or 100 years of decrepitude and fragility? Or do you want to have an extra 50, 80, or 100 years of vibrant, passionate, intense, creative, expressive life? You see, that's what we all want. We all want the juice in life. That's what anabolic metabolism does. It gives you back the juice, literally as well as figuratively. How do we do that? Let's take a look at the first thing. I told you I was going to tell you how to put the brakes on. No, we're going to have to do the aloe. What are the brakes? The brakes in this situation is an aloe concentrate. And it's an aloe concentrate because aloe, as you know, is an extraordinary substance. You've been putting it on burns and cuts and scrapes and scratches for decades. Most of you probably have an aloe plant in your house, but maybe you didn't know that you could eat it. Maybe you did know, but you haven't been getting the results that you need because the product that you've been taking is not a concentrate. The good thing about the company that I'm running right now is that we grow and process more aloe vera than anybody on the planet. We publish more papers on aloe vera than any other scientific group in the world. And the good news is that aloe vera, the specific raw material or the group of components in aloe that have the highest medicinal value in terms of putting the brakes on catabolic metabolism, have been identified and concentrated into this particular aloe concentrate. More information again at the Oasis booth, but keep in mind that aloe can not only enhance the proliferation of liver, kidney, and skin cells, which is valuable, but it stimulates the production of collagen. Why is that important? Because you have more collagen in your body than anything else other than water. First most common component, hopefully, in your body is water. Second most common component in your body is collagen. It's a protein that holds you together. Now, think about that again. It's a protein that holds you together. It gives strength and tensile strength and flexibility to your joints, your tendons, your ligaments, your bones. It holds your internal organs in place. Collagen is holding everything in your body together. And yet, as we grow older, collagen, what? it becomes stiff and brittle. And it's not just that you can't touch your toes anymore when you bend over. Who cares? What I'm worried about is what's going on in my arteries, because my arteries have to expand every time that my heart beats, and they have to relax between heartbeats. And if my arteries can't do that, if the collagen matrix that allows for that flexibility is becoming stiff, then every time my heart beats, my blood vessels are going to get injured. And the pressure within that system is going to rise, and that's not a good thing. So there's lots of bad things that happen as collagen protein starts to cross-link and become stiff. The good news is that you can stimulate the production of new collagen, and you can prevent the degradation of old collagen. You can do both. Aloe, because it is a powerful antioxidant, helps to stop collagen from cross-linking. At the same time, it stimulates your body to produce more collagen. Lo and behold, if you're doing range of motion exercise, and range of motion, think yoga, think a really nice Tai Chi program, think anything which will cause you to move your body in its fullest range of motion. I do this every day because it's insane not to. I traveled last year 80,000 miles. Oftentimes I'm traveling in a suit. And I don't care. I'll stand up in the aisles of a plane and I'll do yoga. If I'm between flights at an airport, I'll do my yoga postures and stretches because I know that I have to do that. Because I know my joints need to be lubricated, and if they don't get lubricated, they start to stiffen and age. If I maintain a range of motion in my life, a full range of motion in my life, then the fluid that bathes and lubricates those joints changes. The composition of that fluid changes, and you see greater levels of antioxidants, greater levels of what are called glycosaminoglycans or chondroitin and glucosamine sulfate. All the kind of stuff that you want shows up in the synovial fluid to do what? To rebuild and restore the joint that is going through that range of motion. It is use it or lose it in its finest application. So I was in an airport a couple of weeks ago, and I was going through this kind of a stretch. It's a nice stretch because it works on balance and coordination, and I was stretching and stretching and stretching, and a little girl was walking by with her mother, and her mother was kind of pulling her away from me because that man's crazy. And the little girl said to her mom, "Look, man, that man's dancing in air." Ah! I said, yeah. So again, aloe is important, but if you just sit on the couch and watch television and drink aloe and think you're going to get younger, it ain't going to work. Range of motion movement, critically important. The second step is you need to take care of what I call the necessities, the nutrition, the immunity, the energy, and the stress. And that's done with a group of products that are in something called the Oasis renewal program. And the nice thing about it is it's convenient. Again, you don't have to open a whole lot of bottles. You have something arranged for you in this box right here. Contains 30 strips. Every strip contains a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner packet. So you tear off the breakfast packet, and that's what you need for breakfast to start your day. You take your lunch packet, you put it in your pocket or your purse, and then you take your evening packet with your dinner. So again, it's the right nutrition at the right time. It's chronobiologically designed to give you what you need when your body needs it. So again, the four things that are in this package are, number one, energy, which is not a stimulant product, obviously, because no one's tired because of a caffeine deficiency. Number two, you get immunity, which we all desperately need. You all know the horror stories about what's happening to our environment. You all know about the drug-resistant bacteria, which are cropping up all over the place. I went to a conference on immunology not more than a year ago, and the head of the World Health Organization stood up, and the first sentence out of his mouth was this: "The planetary immune system is collapsing." Woo! What a way to start a conference on immunology. The planetary immune system is collapsing. Now, most of the people in the audience had no idea what the planetary immune system even was, but he spoke of the immune system of the planet as if we were all in a single organism, because guess what? We are. And if there's something happening in Mozambique today, it'll happen in Los Angeles tomorrow. We are no longer able to just say, oh, that's happening in the third world. oh, that's happening in the Congo, or that's happening in Kenya. No, it's all happening to us at the same time. So there's two ways to deal with that. Number one, you deal with health on a global scale. And number two, you deal with your individual health by making sure that your immune system is capable of eating nails and spitting rust. Stress reduction is the third component. And again, we don't want to put you asleep in the middle of the afternoon, but we do want to help you to filter information. Stress for me is too much coming at me all at once. Does that ring a bell to anybody? That's what stress is for me. Too much, too fast, all at once. This helps your brain to filter information. And nutrition is a good, comprehensive, time-released, multiple-dose multivitamin. Because one-a-day vitamins just don't work. They don't work. They never have. The idea that you can take one huge pill and cover all your needs is great if you're a python. Anybody have a python? You feed it a rabbit, and you have to worry about it for another week? Right, well, that's what one-a-day tablets are for. They're for pythons. People, on the other hand, are designed to receive nutrients over a long period of time in small amounts. And so you have to think multiple dose and time released. And so we do that and put it in a package that everyone can utilize. Compliance is very high because there aren't a lot of bottles to open or a lot of questions to answer. The final part of this three-part program is, I would consider, the most important, which is restoring anabolic metabolism. Remember, I said, you're on that hill, you're heading towards that brick wall. You think, where's the brakes? Well, that's aloe. You think, number two, how can I get this car in reverse? And that's restoring anabolic metabolism. Now, longevity signal formula. I started looking at that and formulating that the day that I turned 40 and looked in the mirror and I didn't like what I saw. I was healthy, but I was only average, and I've never aspired to be average. I went to my doctor and he told me I was normal, and I said, I don't want to be normal. Normal for a 50-year-old is that you got a 50% chance of keeling over and dying before your 65th birthday. I couldn't live with that kind of risk, so I don't want to be normal. So what I did is I restored my anabolic metabolism, and my cholesterol went from 214 to 140 without any cholesterol-lowering drugs. My blood pressure went from high normal to 90/60 without any blood pressure-lowering drugs. My percent body fat went from 21% to 8.7% without even going to the gym. How did I do that? I just changed my metabolism. When you change your metabolism, those things happen. How many of you remember what it was like when you were 20? You went to the gym, you lifted weights, and what happened? Muscles appeared. Then you're 50, and you looked in the mirror and you said, I got to get back in shape. You went to the gym, you lifted weights, and what happened? Nothing. Why? Because when you were 20, you were very anabolic. When you were 50, you were catabolic, and you could lift weights until the cows come home, and nothing will happen. Actually, that's not true. Something will happen. You'll hurt yourself. Right? Because you'll say, dang, I'm not getting any muscles. I should probably increase the weight. And then all of a sudden, those 50-year-old joints start going, and you've got an injury. And after you're injured, do you ever go back to the gym? No, you never do. So again, critically important, three things. Restore anabolic metabolism. There's two hormones in this product that do that. One is DHEA, but the thing about DHEA is it's converted to testosterone and estrogen, so in high doses, which people tend to do, people tend to overdose. The motto of the American public is, if a little is good, a lot is better. So because DHEA is converted to sex steroids, I really couldn't get into marketing a product in which people were going to overdose and hurt themselves. So the good thing is we didn't have to use very much DHEA, 10 milligrams. What we used in addition to that was a metabolite of DHEA called 7-keto. 7-keto is not convertible to sex steroids, but sends the same message to your brain that your body is getting younger. Now, I have to, in all fairness, say that there's an alternative to this. It's absolutely free. And that is what I call the Jack LaLanne strategy. Jack LaLanne is a friend of mine. When I was writing my book on DHEA, I called him up to see if he was taking any DHEA. He said, Steve, why should I do that? I said, because it keeps you young. He goes, yesterday I did 900 push-ups. How many did you do? I said, less than that. So if you're willing to do 900 push-ups in one day, because when Jack LaLanne's brain calls his body and says, hey, body, how old are we? And the body says, well, I don't know, we just did 900 push-ups. The brain says, well, geez, we must be 22. So the brain acts accordingly. But if you're not willing to do that, and I'm clearly not, then you got to cheat. And the cheating here is when my brain calls my body and the brain says, hey, body, how old are we? And my body says, well, let me check the HEA levels. And the body goes, they're 420. My brain goes, come on, really? Oh, yeah, I'll read it again. No, I'm sure, boss, it's 420. And the brain says, well, geez, I thought we were over the hill, but obviously we're only 27 or 29 years old. And the brain then acts accordingly by ramping up what? Ramping up anabolic metabolism. It sends messages to every cell in your body, and that message is build, repair, restore. So that when I go to the gym and I lift weights, I get muscles, big muscles, and I don't have to try very hard. I work out 1 hour a week, 20 minutes, 3 times a week. I have an 8.7% body fat. Come on. If you're not willing to do that, now I'm an active person. I don't own a television, and I have 3 small kids and 1 on the way. So I'm an active person, right? You can't have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old boy and not be active. But at the same time, I don't go to the gym and work out hours and hours and hours because I don't have time. So the point again is this. You're on a road. The road slopes downward. The further along you go, the faster it goes. There's a brick wall at the bottom of the road. You got to put that car in reverse. You got to hit the brakes before you hit the wall. And it's all about metabolism. It's all about metabolism. It's all about metabolism. You can think of anything. And whether you want to talk about free radicals or whether you want to talk about genetic error, accumulated genetic error, there's lots of models of aging. But every single one of those models of aging, the question that you have to ask is, why? Why is my body not producing those enzymes? Why is my body not correcting genetic error? Why are all these things happening to me? And the answer is always what? Metabolism. The answer is always metabolism. And how do I know that? When you restore anabolic metabolism, your body starts creating more DNA repair enzymes. Your body starts generating more enzymes. Your body starts creating more biochemicals that it created when it was time to burn fat and gain muscle. And when was that? When you were young. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll do some Q&A. Here's the question. Why does all this happen? Why? Why does all this happen? And I'll put it in real clear terms. Here's a 16-year-old. Because that person is growing, there is an enormous, somewhere around 10,000 times the cell replication compared to a 60-year-old. Right? So you have the 60-year-old. Here you have the 16-year-old. This one is their cell replication rate is 10,000 times what that person is. So the exposure of these incredibly sensitive base pairs in their DNA, the exposure as that cell replicates and the DNA unzips, and all those base pairs have to now be what? Duplicated. That exposure to the base pairs, to the free radical environment of the cell is what? Astronomical. The exposure of their DNA to potential damaging agents, toxins, free radicals, the exposure of this 16-year-old is 10,000 times the exposure of this 60-year-old. Now, who gets cancer? Him or him? The 60-year-old. Here's the $64,000 question. Why? That guy's DNA is 10,000 times more exposed to more damaging or potentially damaging conditions than this guy, and that guy doesn't get cancer and this poor sap does. Why is that? Because this 16-year-old is producing massive levels of biochemicals that protect DNA. One of them, which we've measured, is DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase goes along that DNA molecule after it's replicated and really rips out anything that doesn't work, puts in the right base pair, and does that at 10 base pairs per second. So this 60-year-old has huge amounts of DNA polymerase, and this poor guy over here, when an error occurs, it doesn't get fixed. And if that error replicates, it becomes what? A mutation. And a certain number of mutations will become what? Cancer. So the question is, why would Mother Nature pull the rug out from under this poor 60-year-old? Because Mother Nature's job is to make sure that what? Humanity survives. And this 16-year-old, she's going, procreate, honey. I'll protect you until you give me some children. And this 60-year-old, she's saying what? You are now expendable. And I'm not saying that the solution is to have children when you're 60. I'm saying that the solution is to create a metabolic environment where that would be possible. It's not that you're going to get pregnant when you're 60, but your brain is going to be saying, man, hormone levels are high. We got to really maintain this body. We have to increase DNA repair enzymes. We have to increase metabolic efficiency. We have to stoke the fires of immunity, because that's what anabolic metabolism is all about. Some people say, but Steve, you're messing with Mother Nature. And I say, no, no, no. I'm using Mother Nature's very own tool to fool Father Time. Because it's Mother Nature who gave us DHEA in huge amounts when you were young. And then she takes it away, the same molecule that made you strong and healthy and vibrant and vigorous and alive. That same, very same biochemical, she now takes away from you as you grow older. And as DHEA levels go down, so does quality of life, so does immunity. Everything goes down. The question is, what will you do about it? Either you're going to be like Jack LaLanne and you're going to do 900 push-ups a day, or you're going to do something about your metabolism. And I suggest that if you're not willing to do this, you better take off your shirt and start doing push-ups right now. Questions? Lights. Wow, I must have either done a good job or a terrible job. Either I did a good job or a terrible job. If no one asks questions, it's either got to be a good job or a terrible job. Caffeine, I could talk about that for the rest of the day because I wrote a book called Caffeine Blues. When I was writing Caffeine Blues, I did an awful lot of research about caffeine, as you can imagine. And one of the things that you have to understand is that caffeine is a highly catabolic influence. If what you're trying to do is to restore anabolic metabolism, you can't be slamming down a lot of coffee because caffeine stimulates the adrenals release stress hormones are powerfully immunosuppressive, and there is no two ways about it. Can some people have a little bit of caffeine and be fine? Yeah, absolutely. But a problem is caffeine is addictive, so having a little bit is difficult. You ever meet somebody who's doing just a little bit of cocaine? It's like what happens with caffeine is you have a little bit, and then you don't get the same hit because your body becomes used to it. So then you have to have a larger cup. Have you noticed how cups have increased in size over the years? A coffee cup used to be what? 6 ounces. Right? Coffee cup then went to 10 ounces, then a 12-ounce mug, then a 14-ounce, then a 22-ounce, then a 24-ounce, then a 36-ounce. I have, because I do this on talk shows, I bring in my coffee mug that I bought right here in Denver, which is a 59-ounce commuter mug, complete with a little fold-out flap that goes between the car seat and the backrest, and a straw. If you were to drink that on your way to work on an empty stomach, you would consume enough caffeine to kill a medium-sized animal. People do this every day. It's over 1,000 milligrams of caffeine in that mug. And I see people going down. I commute on the Boulder Turnpike, so you know what that's like, right? And I see people weaving in and out of traffic, cutting off people, flipping off other drivers, drinking coffee like it was going out of style. And there's a connection there. There's a connection there. You know, when you have an accident and they take your blood level of alcohol, I think they should take your blood level of caffeine. See if it influenced the decisions that you were making as you were driving down the road. Anyone else?
increase longevity is to have less children.
The other way to increase longevity is to have fewer children. Possibly so, but again, my wife has this idea that she grew up in a big family, and unlike a lot of other people, her big family experience was absolutely the most fulfilling, supporting, and wonderful experience, and so she's determined that we're going to have a big family. Even in the face of birth control. So it's pretty interesting how it's been happening. But yeah, I can't comment on fewer kids because I'm on the opposite track. I can tell you that kids do keep you young. I mean, in terms of the fact that you have to get off the couch and play with them. They really don't like it when you're sedentary. Because if you've noticed, kids are never sedentary, ever. Well, that's not true. They are today. I forgot. But my kids go over to their friend's house. They come back and I say, Daniel, how is your friend? And Daniel says, well, I don't know, Dad. All they want to do is watch television. And I say, well, what do you want to do? And Daniel says, well, something real. And I go, yes, that's my son, something real. Anyone else?
I'd like to share this with you. I'm 65, and I drank 3 pots of coffee a day. One at least most of my life, and I made a deal with my doctor. She told me, this is not very long ago, a few months ago, she said, Janet, I want you to go from 3 pots a day to 2. And I said, okay. But you know, I don't go in and out of traffic like that, and I'm not totally hyper, you know, and I never have had some of those side effects that you're talking about. And I must apologize because I didn't hear your whole lecture. I was calling my husband, who is paranoid. But I really enjoyed what you've said so far, and I'll probably get your tape.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Biochemical individuality. I mean, there are some people who can handle a significant amount of caffeine, and there are some people where it just makes them wingy and nervous. Don't forget, insomnia is not just the inability to get to sleep. People forget that. Insomnia is the inability to reach a depth of sleep that is truly restoring. You all know that there's 4 levels of sleep, S1 through S4. The only time that your body gets into S4, the only time that you really get that restoring, rejuvenating sleep is when your stress hormone levels are very low. You go to bed with high stress hormone levels and you will not reach S4. We measured in a sleep lab 500 people. And we asked them about their caffeine consumption, but we didn't look at that information until after we had done the sleep research. And it was uncanny. I could go through their sleep, because we're taking EEGs, you know, all the while they're sleeping. I could go through their EEGs and I could say caffeine, 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 and then we'd match them to what they actually put down in their questionnaire, and sure enough, we were right every time. The people that went into S4 2, sometimes 3 times, and who woke up and said that they felt great, versus the people who never got into S4 and woke up saying that they feel worse than they went to bed. You see, that was the difference that we were seeing, and so I concluded, hey, caffeine really does affect not just the length of sleep, but the quality of sleep. And the quality of sleep is really more important than the quantity. Right now, I'm working on a book deadline, and so I'm kind of burning the candle at both ends. I'm going to bed at like 2 and getting up at 5 or 5:30. Now, I know I can do that for a month, and the deadline is the 1st of September, but I couldn't do that if I didn't reach a very deep level of sleep, even in the 3 or 4 hours that I'm sleeping. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. Abby Dring. Do you differentiate between the caffeine in coffee versus like green tea?
Yeah, I do,
Is that-
because it's all dose related. And in a strong cup of coffee, you're going to get 100 milligrams of caffeine in a 6-ounce cup. And no one drinks a 6-ounce cup. People, when they say a cup of coffee, they really mean a 12-ounce mug, which is 2 cups, or an 18-ounce mug, which is 3 cups. And so you figure 100 milligrams per 6 ounces. Most people have 300 milligrams before they get to work. And green tea has 35 milligrams if you steep it for 5 minutes. So it's all dose related. And a good point, thank you. It's not all, you know. And there's even a substance, by the way, in tea, which is calming, which is very interesting. And we've isolated that substance, and I have it in a powdered form, and we're now trying to figure out how to put it in a product. It's very intriguing. So, anyone else? Yes? Yeah, we have to get you over to the microphone so your question can be on the program. People sometimes ask, and don't forget, if I don't get to your question because we're running out of time, don't forget that at 6:45 tonight, we'll be having a workshop right here. I don't think it's in this room, but it's in this hotel. There'll be a workshop where we'll be doing nuts and bolts and a lot more Q&A. Yes?
You were mentioning the hormones and the estrogen and progesterone in relationship to part of your line of products. Would you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yes. If you look at the hormones that decline with age, the ones that decline most precipitously are DHEA, testosterone, and growth hormone. And then after menopause, obviously, women experience a decrease in estrogen production. But it's the anabolic hormones that decline the most dramatically and they have the most catastrophic effects. If you look at what happens to the body as DHEA levels drop, it is really catastrophic. There's no other way to describe that. If you look at autoimmune disorders are not due to a overstimulation of immunity, but in fact are due to a imbalance in immunity. Now, the fact that autoimmune disorders are treated with immune suppressive agents is ludicrous. You know, in other words, you go to the doctor, you have an autoimmune disease, your doctor says, I've got the solution, we're going to cripple your immune system. And you go, well, isn't there another way? The doctor goes, nah, there's no other way. So prednisone and all the immune suppressive drugs your doctor can throw at that, and in fact you do experience less pain. But you then do die of something else along the line because the doctor suppressed your immune system and along came pneumonia or along came flu or along came something that just put you in your grave because your immune system was depleted and suppressed. So the solution to autoimmunity is to what? Restore balance to the immune system. It's been proven. If you go to your Medline and you put in DHEA and keyword lupus, you'll find 6 double-blind, placebo-controlled studies that have been done with this autoimmune disease that shows that if people were given enough DHEA, they went into remission. Oh, come on. That didn't suppress their immune system, it balanced their immune system. Now, a lot of people talk about taking progesterone, and I think that's a good idea because estrogen dominance is a real phenomenon. We don't at this moment have a progesterone cream, but they're available in health food stores and from other companies. I think that's valuable if you're a woman and you want to look at progesterone cream and the indications for that. There's great books out by John Lee. Any book by John Lee is a reliable piece of information. And you can take that tack. I don't recommend supplementing with testosterone unless you're under the scrutiny of a healthcare practitioner because testosterone has some risks to it that you don't get with DHEA. Now again, we're using primarily a form of DHEA which is not convertible to testosterone, and because it doesn't convert to testosterone, there's no conversion to estrogen. But at the same time, we put in a small dose of DHEA so that you can get some of those sex steroid benefits, even though they are very, very mild. What might that look like for a woman? Because a woman, a woman who's 20 years old is producing huge amounts of testosterone. She's producing huge amounts of estrogen that balance that. By the time she's 40, here she's 20, producing huge amounts of testosterone, and here she is at 40 producing almost no testosterone, and that has a very telling effect on what? Everything. When she was 20, her testosterone level was what was giving her that I can do anything attitude. It was giving her that high sex drive. It was giving her that high muscle mass. It was giving her that energy, that ability to eat food and make muscle instead of eating food and turning it into fat. As she lost her testosterone level, she lost muscle mass. She lost confidence. She lost strength, stamina, endurance, and she can get it back, not by masculinizing women. We're talking about restoring a level of testosterone that she enjoyed when she was maybe 30. And that makes a tremendous difference. A woman who is a school teacher came in the other day. She said, "You changed my life." I said, "How did I do that?" She goes, "Well, I'm a school teacher. I've been teaching at the same university for 10 years. For 10 years, I walked up to a heavy door in the hallway, and I would wait for someone to open the door for me. Even if I only had one book, I would hold that book with two hands like this," she said, "and I would wait for somebody to open the door. Then, just last week, I went up to that door. I had 5 books. I put them all into one arm. I walked up the door, grabbed the handle of the door, opened it. I walked through and went, ah!" She's changed my life. I felt for the first time in 10 years a level of just a modicum of strength and fitness, a modicum of power. We forget because we can how important muscle is. And why is muscle important? Because for 3.5 million years it was the only thing that kept you alive. Mother Nature doesn't care whether you can balance your stock portfolio or program a computer. Mother Nature has one question, and that is, can you wrestle a bear and win? If the answer is yes, you get to stay on the team. If the answer is no, she's going to say, "Hi, honey, thanks for playing with me. Here's your pink slip, nothing personal. See you later, bye." Jack LaLanne is 86 years old. And Mother Nature looks at him and she goes, "Good boy. Good boy, I'm going to keep you on the team." Well, Jack LaLanne, if he lives to be 120, will he ever have to count calories? No. I've had dinner with him. He eats twice as much as any other person I've ever seen. Well, why? Because every morsel of food that he puts in his mouth goes poof and becomes energy. Because he's got such a high muscle mass. Muscle allows you to live life and enjoy life. It keeps your immune system cracking. Muscle mass keeps you in a high functional ability. I'm not making this up. If you look in the medical literature and you look at any of the data that's coming out now on the metabolic model of aging, it is this: if you can survive or preferably avoid cardiovascular disease and cancer, the single most important factor determining your length of life and your quality of life is your muscle mass. It's pretty simple, isn't it? But if you are catabolic, that advice is meaningless, because if you are catabolic, you're losing muscle every day. If you're anabolic and you're willing to go and work out a little bit, yes, you can build muscle, you can regain muscle, you can maintain muscle, and then you have what? A high functional ability. We got 4 minutes. Here's the story of my mom. My mom was 82. She started on this whole program, and she called me about 6 months later. She said, "How are you doing financially?" I said, "Okay, Mom, why?" She said, "Well, because I want to move out of this retirement home." I said, "You're already in the best home that Barbara and I could find." She said, "Well, that's not the point. I want my own house." I said, "Well, Mom, you know, you're 82, and that means you're going to have to shop for yourself." She goes, "That's right. I'm tired of eating the food that other people buy for me. I'm tired of wearing clothes that I didn't buy and I don't like." She goes, "I want my life back." I called my sister and I said, "Barbara, I got good news and bad news." Good news is Mom's doing great. Bad news is we got to buy her a house and a car. And we did. And she moved into that house. And then I flew to Virginia to help her to furnish it, because my deal with my sister was, this is a great deal. "Barb, you buy her the house and I'll buy the car and the furniture." So that's what we did. So I went to this furniture store. Now imagine, here's an 82-year-old woman, the wife of an abusive alcoholic, so you can imagine she wasn't the most assertive person you've ever met, okay? And she goes into the furniture store, and the guy comes up and she says, "Do you work on commission?" And he says, "Yeah, I do. Why?" She goes, "I'm going to make your day." She says, "I got 9 rooms of furniture to buy. See that guy? He's going to buy me whatever I want." So the guy's eyes get like this. He's thinking, this is fabulous. And she says, "But I got a problem." She goes, "I'm 82. I'm not very patient." So she says, "Whatever I point to, I want it in my house by sundown. Can you do that?" And he goes, "No, that's impossible." She goes, "See you later." He goes, wait. He calls up a friend and he goes, John, rent a truck. John rents a truck. Everything she pointed to was in her house by sundown. Next day we go to a shop for a car. She goes, I really like this car, but I want it in teal. Can you do that? The guy goes, no. She goes, I'm sorry. She's leaving. The guy goes, wait a minute. Right? By sundown, she had a teal car in her driveway. You see, it's like, it's not just a difference in your ability to function because her bone mass has increased, her muscle mass increased, her memory's improved. It's not just that. It's who are you? And who do you want to be? Who are you? Are you feeling that sense of confidence, strength, and power? Or are you slipping into that catabolic downward spiral where you're losing your sense of power and strength, and because of that, you're losing your confidence, and because of that, you're losing the edge, that passion that you used to have for life. If you're in that downward spiral, please do something. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to introduce, probably by introduction of the next speaker. I said that if you can avoid or preferably, if you can survive or preferably avoid cardiovascular disease and cancer, the single most important thing that determines the quality of your life is what? Your muscle mass. And we're really good. My company is really good at this part. But because we're not a medical organization, we can't talk about very much the cardiovascular disease and cancer part. Right? Gary Gordon does that better than anybody I know. So that's a good way of introducing him. And I'm sure that you're going to introduce him as well. But I want you to listen very carefully to what Dr. Gordon has to say, because that's part of the whole story, which is critically important. Thank you for your time and attention. I'll see you tonight, 6:45.
Your books have arrived.
Oh.
Hello, all books are.
There we go.
Stephen's books have arrived, and they'll be at the table. And Roger, there, you'll tell him where the table is. But his supply of books arrived, so they're available now. Tonight, during the break time, I would like to see, or like to talk to George Merkel, if at all possible.